Hey, everybody, welcome back to America's Mom. I am your host, Sharona Bishop, and I'm really glad that we're doing this show today. There's been a lot of speculation on what happened with President Trump this past weekend for like 5 seconds, and then it just ended. And I thought that was really strange. I mean, this is the fourth assassination attempt against the president, and there's really no meaningful discussion going on around it. Just a lot of like weird commentary that I don't know. I kind of want to just erase all of the things that I've heard. And I want to invite you just to be here with us today to focus on the accuracy of exactly what happened and the failures rather that happened at that White House press dinner at the Washington Hilton. Okay, so we're going to get into that today. We're also going to be spending some time focusing on what's happening in Nigeria and this very strange attempt to whitewash the massacres of Christians by Muslims in Africa. We're going to be dealing with that. It is not going to be an easy consumption day today, guys. And I hate to do that to you right before you head out into the weekend, but I'm going to give you a lot of things to pray about. I'm going to give you a lot to offer up to the Lord and get our focus right before the weekend hits. Things that you can actually be bringing more attention to because our energy needs to be focused on the things that really matter and healing and restoring those things. We can do this. We can do this. We've been talking about this all week. What is the role that you and I play individually? And so we're going to be getting into that in just a moment. But I have to bring you some really nonsensical, audacious clip before we really get into things today because it's the entitlement for me, really. It's the entitlement for me of people who came to our country illegally, decide they're going to stay, get into our system, get on our social programs, take advantage of our public education, and have all the wonderful, amazing benefits of being for all intents and purposes, almost an American citizen. But then feel like, in addition to all of that, we should just give them citizenship because they've managed to elude the system for decades. I think entitlement can really be summed up in this clip by the Los Angeles mayor, who says not only should they all become citizens, of course, but they should be allowed to vote. Why can't illegals vote in Los Angeles County? I am not kidding you. Straight from his lips to your ears. Take a listen.
Recognize that we have folks living in this country who've been here 20 years, they've started a family, they pay their taxes, many of them are homeowners, but they don't have a say over the policies that affect their children and their families on any given day. The motion only asks to seek to explore whether we want to head in that direction. I think the details of who's going to be involved, how we're going to do it, all that needs to get sussed out.
Yeah. Excuse me, I said LA mayor, might as well have been, but this is the councilman, Hugo Soto Martinez, and he says it's not fair. It's not fair that illegals have to live under these policies made by American citizens and they don't get a say. I'm just, I wish I was making it up. I don't know. I don't know. This is what we're dealing with. 25 million of this attitude need to exodus our country immediately. Like I'm here for this. POTUS, remember you said there would be a mass exodus. Tom Holman, get busy. Let's get these guys going. I know that there are some holes. I know that somehow people are getting information about ICE and where they're going and all that. But you know what? Dig in, push harder, and get this kind of entitlement out of our country. No, that is an incredible privilege in America to vote and being involved in the Lindell Offense Fund in elections, securing election platforms across this country for the last 5 years. This is the peak of entitlement. It's exactly the attitude we don't want here. People, remember, our soldiers, our men, our women, our families sacrifice and have sacrificed for generations to secure our freedoms and our right to vote. The ability to create and create policy, vote on policy that affects us every day. It's funny and ironic thing that he's addressing policy. Isn't that ironic? The policies that are allowing for illegals to flood into our country and now they demand the right to vote on those policies. It's just amazing. I can't with Hugo Soto Martinez, Los Angeles. I feel sorry for you today. This is the kind of arrogance that you have running your city. And it all makes so much sense now. It really does. We don't need advocates for American citizens on our city councils. We just need advocates for illegals, and they have plenty of them. And fortunately, this kind of nonsense is spreading into the rural communities. We saw this just now happen in Garfield County, Colorado. Again, that's where I came from. And so watching them close the ICE office where they have massive illegal operations going on, massive illegal immigrant operations going on, repeatedly accusations and reports and charges of sexual assaults by illegals in that community. But the transgender of the community, the Roaring Fork tranny, that's really all I can say publicly. Just go look that up and you'll see I'm involved in some legal issues with this person. Is has managed to fight and bring other leftist. I got to be careful. Oh, okay. Let me just think here. We don't just want to say things. We want to say meaningful things. So this Roaring Fork tranny, as he calls himself, has brought other people who don't understand the way the world works and who are they're very apologetic towards illegals. They all got together and they have managed to push ICE out of Garfield County and to have that office closed. And now there will be no more federal interference at all for whatever the heck people who are doing there illegally want to do. And this is probably the worst thing that could happen to Colorado. Remember, Garfield County sits on the I-70 corridor, one of the most heavily trafficked corridors in the country. In fact, it runs all the way east to west. That I-70 corridor literally takes you from California all the way to, I think it ends out in Pennsylvania. So this is what they're doing. This is the goal. Elevate those who do illegal activities in our country, make citizens who obey the law feel bad about themselves until they finally come into agreement that we need to feel sorry for illegals and actually even invite them into voting on policies that they really have no reason to even be included in because they're illegal, breaking our laws from the get-go. It's amazing. It really is. I'm floored at the audacity truly of Hugo Soto Martinez and every other leftist that is advocating for foreigners first over Americans. It's amazing. It really is. With that, just want to remind everybody our elections have serious consequences. You all know that. LindellPlan.org is where we are dealing with the consequences and fallout of not securing our election platforms. We've been talking all week about the recent SCOTUS ruling and what's being done across the country to secure our elections, but really it's county by county, it's person by person. You can join our efforts at lindellplan.com. Excuse me, I think I said org, lindellplan.com, or you can go to causeofamerica.org, and that's going to be where you sign up to represent your own community, be empowered, given the tools to be able to support all of the laws that are coming out to protect our elections, but also move the dial forward with information and education for your local clerks. It's really important, guys. We can't save our country if you're not involved. This is a constitutional republic. It is not a kingdom. We will not be honoring and bowing to the king here. Not on America's mom. We have one king, that is the Lord Jesus Christ. It is not Prince Charles, who, by the way, just to remember, just to remind everybody, didn't he just surrender the UK to Islam just 2 weeks ago? Like, I don't get it. What's happening here? I'm very confused. I'm very confused. We showed that video of him surrendering his country to the Islamic fascists, and I am not here for it. So the king coming to America has zero relevance to me. We won. Bye bye. Don't know why you're here. I would also just mention I recall the massive payouts that have been given to the Indigenous people of Canada by the king and queen of England, right? They had to pay all of these children that they harmed during the era of trying to convert the natives into British citizens. Horrendous story. Those payouts only have occurred in the last 5 years, by the way. It's a very relevant, very new story. And Prince Charles and his royalty had to pay all these families for the wild abuse and even murder of many children under their compulsory program to literally reprogram Indigenous children into British citizens. It is a horrible story. So yeah, I don't bow to the king. Couldn't care less if Charles was here. Goodbye. Bye bye. All right. So moving on. In light of everything that we've been experiencing, in light of everything we've been seeing, the trauma, the purposeful trauma that's been tried anyway to be perpetrated on us, I want to go back to the original president who was trying to set the tone for the country and for the world that freedom is best, right? Freedom is greatest for all. All ships rise under a free country like America, a constitutional republic. on March 30th of 1981 at the Washington Hilton was the first time that we saw a president attempt to be assassinated. Take a look.
Single bullet wound that entered slightly underneath the left arm.
So interestingly enough, John Hinckley Jr. he fired 6 shots at the president, who was supposed to be untouchable. At that time, we didn't have any reason to believe that anyone would be wanting our president to be assassinated within his own administration. Okay, so Reagan was believed to be untouchable, deeply loved and adored by his staff as well as the people of America. And John Hinckley was able to get to him. Now, I want to point out, if you're there in Washington, D.C., and you come to the Washington Hilton, it's not a secure environment at all. It's very popular. It's true that in the basement there's very little service, and it is really easy to get around. It's really easy to dart and not be caught or have anybody stop you. It's very open to the public. It's not an isolated location, is what I'm trying to say. It's very open to the public. You wouldn't go there if you're trying to, remove yourself from society. It's very public. But on that day, when Ronald Reagan was attempted to be assassinated, we had a police officer, a Secret Service agent who were willing to take a bullet for Reagan. You notice they jumped in front of him, they protected him. Everybody reacted very quickly, and President Reagan's life was spared. Now, it's been increasingly bothering me, as I think it's bothering a lot of you, that this is the 4th known attempt, anyway, on President Trump's life. And it does not appear that their security is tightening. Now, listen, I'm a nobody. I'm just looking at what's happening here. It appears to me that nothing's really being done to make the president more secure. In fact, probably one of the most shocking moments of the night at the White House press dinner was when they grabbed JD Vance first over the president of the United States. I was kind of shook about that. I noted that and was like, what in the world? They literally grabbed JD, yank him out of the chair, pull him back, and they left President Trump sitting there with a couple guys around him. He appears to fall as they're trying to remove him. And I thought that was so super strange. But to really go over the technicalities of what has happened in the previous attempts on President Trump's life, and most notably this one at the Washington Hilton, is a great friend and someone that I really look to for these types of situations, because I have a feeling, I trust that feeling a lot of the time. I have a feeling about things, and I look at something just like you all do, and I think, wow, that seems odd. That seems weird, but it's not my forte. It's not my expertise at all. And so I thought I need someone to come on and talk about this for real, and someone who supports and appreciates the president and what he's done, and can also give us a very honest and insider look into how security is supposed to operate. I'm talking about super sensitive, secure situations, who knows her stuff. She is the Chief Operating Officer of Kennedy International Logistics and Services and Tactical Defense and the Security Store. She is an expert on how this is supposed to play out, and has been doing meaningful security work all over the world for the most important people. And so I thought I'd defer to her. Christy Hutcherson, thank you so much for joining us on America's Mom. What is going on, and what from you? We're going to take a look at the video of the security officer in a minute, but right out the gate, what is your take on what has been happening here and the repeated attempts on President Trump's life? Is his security getting better, or is it like I'm thinking it's getting worse?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Sharona, for having me on and your kind words. I want to first say something. For the most part, we have incredible law enforcement officers. We have incredible individuals who work at different agencies. I'm personal friends with a whole lot of them. And they work very hard every single day to defend and protect not only the president, but in their position, even in the nation, our country, right? but there's some bad apples. And we're going to talk about that later because I started thinking about that when you asked me to come on to talk about this. And I think there's some talking points that people aren't talking about that they actually need to start talking about. As far as the president's security is concerned, there is something that is not adding up. And it's easy to sit back and be an armchair quarterback, and that's not what I'm going to do today. I'm going to walk you through and your listeners through what we do every day. We secure heads of state. We secure very high profile individuals that need very tightened security. And I can tell you right now, looking at everything that took place at the White House Correspondent Dinner at that hotel, which I've been to numerous times for different events, something doesn't smell right. And I can tell you our private firm would have had completely different security protocols in place.
Should we take a look? Why don't we run the video? This is the most current video that is easier for everybody to see, to really look and see what happened when the perimeter was breached and this guy comes running out of a room with a big long gun. Again, I'm just going to talk like a regular person. You're the expert here. He comes running out of a side door with a big long gun, and let's watch the video, and I want you to break this down and tell us what is going on here.
So if you notice, you have a dog, that canine unit specifically right there, that canine is trained in very sensitive capabilities. He's able to detect powder and all sorts of different things and behavior. That dog picked up something. That's why that dog followed him into that side room. The handler pulled him back, which is interesting in itself. Then the dog re-engages back in there, wanting to engage that individual. The protocol should have been the moment the dog handler saw that his canine was engaging with this individual, his duty should have been to walk into that room and further investigate that individual, including as close as he was to the perimeter of going into the sensitive area. He should have been able to say, you know what, we're going to need to scan you. We're going to need to detain you. We need to have some information. What are you doing here? What is your purpose? Do you have a ticket to be this close? Second of all, I will also even say he never should have been able to even get this close to that perimeter. And there's so much going on in this scene, Sharona, that's just not right from a security perspective. The gentleman with the back with who's law enforcement with the gun taking down one of the metal detectors. Why are they taking down a metal detector during a current event? The event's not over. There still might be people coming and going, ingress and egress. So why is he distracted? And why is he taking down what looks like he's taking down the metal detector? That's another huge area of breach. The other thing, if you look at all of the individuals walking around this particular corridor, they seem to not be completely engaged with what their duty is supposed to be. And that is fundamental. This is just really simple. You have to look down that corridor at all times. There should be eyes looking down what's coming in at all times. Just because somebody's in the room and they consider it to be a secure, sterile zone does not make it so. Anybody still at any time can breach any of the outer perimeter. And I'm going to give you an example, Sharona. This is what our team would have done. I went to the inauguration. Our security team was there. We were staying at a hotel that was miles outside of the city perimeter. We happened to have had the Vice President of the United States staying at our hotel. The Vice President of the United States, under the same Secret Service that's currently protecting the president, they went to this particular lengths to protect the Vice President at the time. So we were at the Ritz-Carlton at Tyson's Corner. Tyson's Corner Ritz-Carlton, they had a complete outer perimeter before you even could get to the parking lot. When you've pulled off the street and you tried to get into that hotel, the front, not including the back, the parking garage and everywhere else that surrounded that, which is a very difficult area, by the way, to secure, you had access checkpoints. You had a tent with bomb sniffing dogs. You had bomb material, looking for bomb material, mirrors underneath the vehicle. We had to show ID prior to even being able, as a guest of the hotel, prior to being able to even hit the front door. Once we hit the front door of the Ritz-Carlton, we then had to go through another layer of security screening, including dogs, including Secret Service, including metal detectors, including our luggage. So my question is this: knowing that this was a very difficult security perimeter, guests staying there, people having free movement, why didn't they have those type of security days before the event set up? Because that guy would have never been able to, the perpetrator, the assassin, wouldn't have been able to even get the weapons inside the hotel. So there's another question nobody's asking. If the proper security was in place, he wouldn't have been able to get the weapons into the hotel lobby in the first place and up to his room. So that's a lot to unpack right now. So I'm going to pause right there. And by the way, every single time we exited and entered the hotel, whether by Uber, by foot trail, whatever it looked like, we had to go through the exact same protocol the whole entire stay that we were there, because that's what a secure perimeter, a sterile environment should look like.
Okay, so Cole Allen comes out of this side room. Tell me what you think about what was going on. I think what we understand from that side door, there's like he was hiding in like a storage room right there. I don't really understand if that goes all the way through, but clearly people are coming in and out of that side door and nobody's manning it. Clearly there
Mhm.
was nobody on the other side of the door. Even though this is an access point to the stage, this is going to bring them right into where President Trump is, right? How was he able to hide there? And what do you think was going on? Let's dial in on the dog handler, because you're right. It's very evident from the video. The dog senses something. The dog goes back twice, maybe would have gone a third time had he not been redirected by his handler. What was going on there from the work that you've done that you're seeing? Why would he have pulled back? Like, we're not, now listen, we're not making any accusations against the handler, but it's very curious. And then I also want you to explain what you see when he pulls back. He sees the guy run through, knows he's running through. He does nothing.
Sharona, that's a really good question. Again, I did, the handler cannot become the focus, but the dog was the one leading the handler. The handler understands that when that dog engages in that way, he has a duty and a responsibility to follow through on that. And he did not. I'm not going to speculate why, but in my professional opinion, when you don't follow protocol and that you're trained on that protocol, that is derelict of duty. It is beyond me why he did not follow through and do what he did. So I'm sure he's being questioned as to why he did not follow through. Why did he pull back the dog twice? And why did he not engage that individual? Because right then and there, that whole scenario could have been stopped and thwarted before he even had a chance to get out of that room and breach. And by the way, the individuals that were inside that room, he had to open up his coat, take out that weapon and have it in his hand as he's running out the corridor. There was obviously other people in and behind that door we can't see because we don't have cameras to see in there. So who was in there and who did not even notice him taking out a long gun out of his coat and then running out of that door through the metal detectors? Again, Shorna, there's so many security breaches here from a professional standpoint, so much breakdown. That I am perplexed as well. And again, this goes back to, are they properly trained? Where did they get these individuals? What teams, what have they done in the past? Who's hiring these individuals to be part of a detail? Not just the president of the United States, Sharona. We talked about this off camera. Every single important cabinet member, including the vice president of the United States, was in that room. What if that guy, that assassin, had more people with him? Or even what if he had a small nuclear device or a dirty bomb or a suicide vest? This would be a different story today that we'd be telling right now. Again, I think the complete security breakdown started well beyond the day of this event, Sharona. I would be questioning and I would be looking at why there wasn't multiple layers. When you have a security this important with all of these people in the room, days and days and days in advance should have been done. The hotel should have been completely shut down a minimum of a week prior to this event, there should have been scanning of every single hallway, every floor, every room, and every guest with this type of high profile. And if the hotel, because they have a right to say, no, we're not going to allow this intrusion of our guest privacy, then somebody should have been smart enough and intelligent enough to make the decision to tell the president, we cannot have you at this venue. It is that simple, and shift gears.
Right. I mean, so with the breakdowns that you're talking about, again, I'm a regular person. I'm watching all the same videos that everybody else is. It really appears that nobody was prepared to take any action when that man came running through. Maybe if we can look at the video, Michael, I just sent another one. I don't know if we have time to load this up. It gives a broader perspective of what was going on. We showed this video earlier in the week. Yeah, and you do have the pictures there.
Yep.
This in this video, you see the Secret Service and the police are standing around, no, and they're not engaged. When the guy comes running through,
They're taken off guard.
they're completely taken off guard. They don't seem to, they don't really, they're not ready to move. They're not ready to act. Is this just a we feel safe because it's DC and things have been cleaned up and they've just gotten lackadaisical? Or is there something else here? Because again, this is attempt number 4. Butler, Pennsylvania still has never been fully explained to us, by the way. Like, I mean, I'm just, there was never an in-depth investigation like we were told there was going to be. And so we don't even still understand what happened there to get a young guy on the roof and somehow they didn't see that. We, where are we at? Why would this look this way? And is this appropriate? Do people just kind of stand around like that? I've not witnessed that at events I've been at. I've seen way more higher intense detail for Mike Lindell at the symposium or when I'm going to a CPAC conference than what I'm seeing here. Is that fair? Or is this Monday morning quarterbacking, as you said?
No, every single person that was there was what we would call disengaged in their duty. It's just that simple. When we have high profile events, I've had security. You've met some of my security detail, and I'm nowhere near the president of the United States. And I can tell you, they don't take their eyes off of the whole surrounding at all times. They know who's coming, who's going, where they're at, where their hands are at, what's going on. And again, that's still a filtered corridor. Somebody should have seen his behavior and coming down that corridor and stopped and questioned him multiple times prior to him. And look how many there are, Sharona. You're telling me this whole entire team who have one of the most important ingress areas of entering the ballroom, none of them are looking and engaged and focused on their duty. That's what it looks like to me.
And with a president that's had 4 assassination attempts, how or 3 prior to this, how are we here? How is this possible? I want to point out also there's been the multiple videos now, the James
Mhm.
O'Keefe video, the OnlyFans audio recording of Secret Servicemen who are bragging about where President Trump's going to be, bragging about protocols they shouldn't be discussing publicly, letting just random strangers they just met online know the details of their job and how to access the president of the United States. These are the men
Mhm.
that we've been seeing in some of these videos, obviously not representative of all of them. Obviously, we know that. But like you said, inexperienced, hopefully at best, but at worst, wildly incompetent. What can the president do about this? And like you said, or we talked about earlier, can he have private security?
Well, choke point discipline completely was a complete failure in this scenario. The president cannot have private security. However, there's always gray area. And if I were the president of the United States and his family, I would want to have an outside professional firm come in, look at the gaps, see where and break down everything from all of the assassination attempts, where the security breaches are happening, and give an assessment. The government hires outside consultants all the time, and this should be no different. I think a fresh set of eyes needs to come into this agency and look at. And when I was getting ready for this, I started thinking about something. And if you look at the FBI, the CIA, and the different agencies, unfortunately, Sharona, we're living in a climate in the last 15 plus years where agencies have become politicized. And instead of individuals, even at the highest levels, we've seen it with Clapper and Brennan and James Comey, who sell out their responsibility to the United States of America for their political ideas and personal beliefs. And there's no place for that inside these agencies. The Secret Service, the FBI, and the DOJ, and all of these are supposed to be serving our country first and foremost. And when you put on that badge, you're supposed to check your personal political views at the door for the good of the country. And I think right now we need to take a hard look at these different agencies, because if it's infiltrated the FBI and the CIA and others, it could have infiltrated the Secret Service. And we might have individuals, unfortunately, we've seen it, we have history, that they're not doing and fulfilling the job that they're supposed to be doing. And after 4 unprecedented attempts, I would be taking a hard look at that.
So that, I mean, that is what people are saying online, right? They're suspicious of potentially insiders who don't care, who are willfully allowing things to happen that would put the president in harm's way.
I would
And
be
they're
going back and starting to look at who is planning, and I'm sure that they've already started doing this, but from an outside perspective, start looking at who's planning these different events, who has the authority to hire, to put in place these individuals, and start doing some due diligence. You can also flesh them out by planting false information, making it real, and seeing who's spreading that information, because it's easy to track back. There's so many different layers and things that they can be doing, and I hope they are doing. They have all of the tools at their disposal to flush out these individuals, but we really need to do it, because we cannot afford the president of the United States, the vice president, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. The president of the United States was duly elected by the people. He is doing the job of his electorate, and we should not be trying to take out a sitting president of the United States.
Well, that's my last question really for you. On an international scope, what would the impact be? You work all over the world. Again, you're working with the leaders of foreign countries all the time. What would the impact be? I just want people to really like wrap their brains around this. Get outside of the rhetoric for a minute of Orange Man bad or whatever.
Mhm.
What would that impact really look like on on a global scale, if someone was to be successful in taking out the president of the United States of America?
You would see a lot of international chaos. There would be a lot of ramifications that would come down, whether it would be a Democratic president or a Republican president. This would be a massive disruptor on a global scale, and it would hurt the United States ultimately. You know, whether you agree with what's going on in Iran or not, this also has serious implications. This could also be a test, and I hate to say it, but they utilize the useful idiots to run tests and see vulnerabilities and see how security reacts, how security is set up, what they can and cannot do. So that is something else, by the way, Sharona, that I would 100% be looking at. Who else is behind there? I love the fact that they really come out really quickly. Oh, he's a lone wolf. I'm here to tell everybody out there from the security world, it is a rarity that there's ever a lone wolf. There's always something or somebody behind that individual or those people that are driving this. And so there's a lot of things that I would be looking at from a national security perspective. And again, if the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was assassinated, J.D. Vance would take over, but policies and things would be disrupted, and they would have consequences here, and negative, in my opinion. So we cannot afford to allow this kind of nonsense, this kind of breach in security, this derelict of the highest level to continue to go on. You know, we secure events all the time for heads of state and dignitaries who have to be protected at hotels like the Hilton. And I can assure you 100%, I can tell you right now, Sharona, today, every single person there would have been fired. They probably wouldn't have been hired in the first place. But also, where is the team leads? You should also have a roving team leader, especially at these type of high profile events, to make sure everybody's doing what they need to do. They're fully engaged mentally, physically, all of these things. And again, there's so much that we can unpack. There's too much in 30 minutes. But I can tell you there's layer upon layer upon layer of security, and it starts from the outer perimeter. Once the outer perimeter is breached, your security has already failed. So just alone that guy was able to get weapons inside that hotel, period, that security team 100% failed, full stop. So we have to look whether they reacted and they were able to do it. Reaction is not success. That reaction and stopping the threat once it happened is a failure. The failure began the moment he was able to enter that hotel with any weapons whatsoever. And again, you know, we can pat everybody on the back for intercepting him and taking him down, but Mr. President, your security team failed you, because that assassin was able to breach every single outer layer and be able to come inside the net. Even though it was stopped and those guys did their job ultimately there, they failed you on a massive level.
That's exactly what we need to understand in America right now. Our president is not safe. That means our country is not safe, and that means the world is not safe.
That's
Christy
correct.
Hutcherson, thank you so much. Kennedy International Logistics and Services. I think, I think you might need to come do an assessment yesterday. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I mean, she would know. I hope people are taking notes. I hope you're listening. Um, those who are out there, again, cheering this on, you don't understand the consequences. You don't understand the consequences for this. So much of the world's nonsense has been stopped just because President Trump is at the helm, just because they knew he would not tolerate this stuff anymore. And so I mean, disruption is the best term I can think of, but it would be absolute chaos, as Christy said. Love, love, love what they do. You can follow her on LinkedIn also. There's always great assessments, both domestic and internationally, on her LinkedIn. That's Kennedy International Logistics. Christy Hutcherson, you can find her at christyhutcherson.org or .com. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which one. But check her out there too. She's written a great book that I absolutely love. It's a daily devotional. She's an absolutely amazing person. So please go check her out, and you will get a lot of great intelligence, a lot of great information that we're just not getting anywhere else. We need the truth, right? That's what we're looking for right now. And the truth is that many people are continuing to look to President Trump to help them, especially Christians around the world. This story is just breaking my heart, to be honest with you. It's breaking my heart because we have people in our administration who are heading to Africa trying to whitewash the area to bring in American corporations and companies to, of course, help bring out these critical minerals and resources that we are needing in our country, since we have been cut off from China and we need to go find our own stuff, right? But the whitewashing of the violence that's going on in Africa against Christians is not helpful. For American corporations to be able to go into Africa, into places like Nigeria, and extract wealth that will help our country, at the very least, it seems to me, we could be helping to protect people like this first video. This has been going on for years, of course, but this first video is just, I don't know if I even can prepare you for what you're about to see. So I just want to make sure, before we do that, I want to pull up this graphic just showing you where the primary military Islamists are focused on in Africa. Okay, so you can see you have the all of these different. In fact, if you can screenshot this right now, and I will post it up on X. I want you to have this so you can kind of familiarize yourself with Africa and with where everything is at. In Nigeria is where we're going to be focused on for the stories today. And the Islamic faction of radical, well, I don't even know if it's considered radical over there. The Islamists are in charge, and they're going into these Christian villages and they are attacking relentlessly these Christians. These are just village people. Okay, they're not living in big houses. They're not living like we live. These are small Christian villages where they rely on one another just to survive, just to get through the day. This is literally intercommunal living. And they're having to deal with the nightmare of Muslims coming into their homes at night, slaughtering their children and their spouses, and potentially even themselves. If they live to tell the story, it's an absolute miracle. Well, this mother lived to tell the story this week, and I want you to hear it straight from her. Listen to this, because while we sit here and we worry about, whatever podcast war is going on in America, there are people facing really extreme difficulties in the world under the reign of Islam jihadi terrorists every single day. Take a listen to her story, what just happened this past week.
Lisa speaks first.
Why don't I speak?
Shinyebi, akrefie biututu, shinyebi na shwerensi, je we karabringe. To je dizijene jontonje. Ma wenje shimi, je kwa dizi. Ajibe mwitare, jibe ne chichikanu sinyeji. Be unklanu sinana, be ni sheche. Be arabano sinana, be cheva, be tiskata na ari. Be asheji be shontonje. Ne jibiwe jemvana na mushimi. Bife goma. Asewe na kiraba. Ajene kiraba. Asiantonje, jene siontonje. Ambra kichembete. Nanje yukon ngwa hon kuchishi jana si desejana ambra rabaritine. Ajene kenyana be agure be winje ajebe fara nenyi gembe daga chana bere be winje nenji daga vaji ngararichi kanya diwe harimbe ankpova arichana we anshirichi to yuhona akichene ko chena kwa nyibe ayanyi zinyana azu.
Last year,
Kara Castronova, at a recent press conference, asked Stephen Miller, what is President Trump prepared to do? Because we know that there are members of the administration that are whitewashing the violence that is happening there. And it is directed at Christians. We're facing our own issues here in America. But I want you to hear Stephen Miller's response, because this is where we, the people, can be very helpful and very effective in highlighting the needs that are happening over there. And the only reason I'm saying this is because we're going there to extract minerals and resources that we need here in the United States. Fine. If that's a legitimate thing, that's fine. But I think in exchange, instead of pretending that this violence isn't happening, we should maybe be thinking about, I don't know, calling Eric Prince and seeing if he's got like some security he'd like to bring over to help these villages. Listen to what Stephen Miller said to Kara Castronova.
Stephen, any more information on President Trump's agenda to stop Nigerian Christian persecution?
Well, the president's been very clear that that is a priority, and as soon as you have more information, I'd be glad to share it.
Well, he said it's a priority. So, America, please weigh in. President Trump watches his socials clearly. He pays attention to what people are Xing and truthing about. So please X and truth about what are we going to do about Christians being murdered in Nigeria by Muslims. Is it possible we can require these American companies to provide protection for the villagers who are going to work the extractions for them and work in the oil and gas fields for them? Can we do that? Can we help? Because that only seems fair. That only seems right. I'm reminded, if you guys haven't seen it, The Machine Gun Preacher. I don't know if you guys ever saw that incredible movie. It's all true. It's all 100% true. And actually, I think there's a lot they did not show us because it's just the Wild West over there in Africa. It's the Wild West. The machine gun preacher, he's an American preacher, and he gets this calling on his heart to go to Africa. He's overcome addiction and all sorts of things, gets a calling on his heart to go to Africa and realizes that God has equipped him with certain things, certain skills that he can use to protect the most innocent. And, he was one guy. He was one guy and he was able to secure and protect an entire orphanage and prevent these Muslims and these terrorists from coming in and murdering all these children. And I'm like, right now we need a few machine gun preachers to head to Nigeria and start protecting these rural communities. Just this week, a community that had not yet been infiltrated at all by these Muslim attacks was hosting a youth day, hundreds of people there. Looks like a pretty, a little bit better to do community, a lot more stable. And in the midst of their festivities for the youth, these Muslims entered in. They attacked the village. They attacked the proceedings that were going on, and they killed 29 people in broad daylight. And nothing. The governor of Nigeria came and said, "This is a very unfortunate situation." Very unfortunate indeed. So I guess in part of me too is thinking, the businessmen who are going over there, who are going to benefit massively, and I know how much is at stake over there. They're going to benefit massively from this, which good on them. That's fine. You have the ability, you have the equipment, you have the skill set. Wonderful. So happy for you. Please consider what your role can be in helping to secure these Christian villages who desperately need help and are desperately relying on America to intervene since we are going to be extracting wealth from them. And again, that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, but we need to be there. We need to show up. We need to be present for these people who are going to be having work for us. I can't fathom what it would be like to be laying there peacefully nursing my baby and have someone break in, snag my child and dismember that child in front of me. I just can't even fathom, and this just happened last week. Just happened last week to a mother. Now, part of what we're doing in Moms for America, which is a branch called Moms for Freedom World, is we are helping to support mothers all over the world who need attention on what is going on in their communities. And this one is huge. It's not, again, I don't know that I'd be so vocal about it, but American businessmen, American companies are going to be going there and are going there now to set up these industries, and they need to provide sanctuary for these Christians. These are the ones they'll be hiring that will be working for them, and they need to provide sanctuary for them. Mothers everywhere really are the ones who are moving the dial against violence in their communities, in their countries, and we want to answer that call. We want to be there. We don't need the government to go in with big armies and things like that. That's not what we're talking about. It's been proven so well under this president that diplomacy really works, and there are clever solutions to these very difficult things in the past that have required unnecessary force. That's not what we're talking about. There is means and there is a way if there is a will. Stephen Miller said this is a priority. It's a priority of the administration. And so please, people, help us to make this a priority by sharing this story out, sharing and asking POTUS directly, tag him. What are you doing to save the Christians in Nigeria? What are you doing? Trump has said repeatedly that this is a Christian nation. On May 17th, there is going to be a rededication of our country back to God. Well, this is part of that because Christianity trumps everything else. When we are brothers and sisters in the Lord, it trumps everything else. Borders, boundaries, political affiliations, whatever. It trumps all of that. And so watching out for one another is an obligation that we have been given and assigned by Jesus Christ himself. So without preaching about this, it just makes sense to me. And especially because from a secular perspective, America will be benefiting greatly by the resources of Africa. So we'll look forward to seeing some resolution there. Last of all, I want to update you really quickly on what is going on in the, I'm able to talk a little bit about this in our last few minutes, what is going on with the restraining orders and the hearings with the judge in Colorado and the transgender male to female and a now 18-year-old attempting to be a female transitioning to a male, clearly an adult now, and what is happening there with those restraining orders against me and the attempt to keep me silent. Do you remember we pulled our show off for a long time, almost 6 months, to navigate this and figure out what to do and how to handle it all, in addition to everything else that was going on in our lives and still continues to be that way. And I just want to say I'm very, very thankful and very excited just to share that Americans Defending Freedom has picked this case up. We knew it was a First Amendment case. We knew that you do not have the right to tell people what they can and can't say about the definitive actions that you are taking in life, especially as a public figure, which this person is. He calls himself the Roaring Fork Trainee. We'll stick with that for now, and has set up a Substack as such, and coming out of Garfield County, Colorado. And so he decided I was not allowed to talk about the legal case that he was involved in, where a child was taken from their family under an emergency court order and given to him and his partner without due process, without CPS, without law enforcement intervention. The judge just said, okay, the parents will not affirm their daughter wanting to be called a male name. And so this is devastating. So we grant an emergency order to take this child, from a perfectly loving, wonderful family, and place her with these people. And I obviously talked a lot about it, and I was slapped with restraining orders from both the now 18-year-old and, of course, the Roaring Fork Tranny, as he calls himself. And so we knew it was a First Amendment issue. We knew that they were just trying to shut down the story because it is outrageous. It's abhorrent. People don't believe that that's happening. And unfortunately, we have a history of sharing information that people do not believe is happening. And we always are telling the truth. That we are telling what is going on. We are telling you that Colorado has become a sanctuary for pedophiles and for the darkest form of deviance. And they're getting away with it using the law now. The laws have been changed to support and benefit offenders. And it is just so tragic for the families that are involved. So we're going to keep talking about those things. And for the moment, why we had to navigate things, we were silenced for a while. And that is not what we do in America, thankfully. Thankfully, that is unconstitutional. Nobody can force that over you. You are allowed to speak freely, even if people don't like the content of which you're saying, even if. So Americans Defending Freedom have taken this case on, and we will have our hearing on June 5th in Colorado, actually at the 9th Judicial Garfield County Courthouse. And I would love to see everybody there. The hearing actually starts at 9 a.m. I'll be talking about this over the next couple of weeks. I would love for people to come and be supportive. We're going to host a press conference afterwards. At least I'm going to. I don't know if ADF will stay for that, but I'm going to host a press conference afterwards. This is extremely important because these are the mechanisms by which they shut people down. They scare people. I can tell you that the incredible force, the incredible force that has been used against the people of Colorado it's hard to deal with. And I live in a free place now. I moved to Texas, and I'm free. And I feel it every single day, how free I am, how grateful I am that when I'm complaining about Republicans here in the state of Texas, which I probably shouldn't do anymore, but when I have been, it's with the knowledge that they will never, ever be anything comparable to the complaints that I wield against Democrats, because one is seeking to take my children, destroy them, mutilate them, and turn them into walking zombies high on Prozac. It's very different and distinctual what Republicans want for children and what Democrats are doing to children right now. And so in Colorado, people are just scared. They are scared. They have lost their courage, a lot of them. They are afraid of retaliation every time they speak out, because look what just happened to me. I didn't even live in Colorado, and I'm getting these restraining orders slapped on me, being told I'm going to face criminal charges if I say the wrong thing about the Roaring Fork Tranny, which I don't even know what the wrong thing would be, because nothing was accurate or truthful in the restraining order to begin with. And so they didn't even, couldn't even get anything about me correct. There's still issues with that. Like, who is this person on the restraining order? It's not even me. I don't even know what this is. But they didn't have to. They didn't have to get anything right because, activism is rampant in the judicial system. And so hopefully we don't have an activist judge. Hopefully that's not what happened here. I'm hoping it's just an oversight, you know, but I don't know. We're going to find out. So that is going to be coming up June 5th, 9 a.m. in Colorado at in Glenwood, which is a beautiful place. Glenwood is just absolutely gorgeous. And I would love to see as many people come out that day as possible. We'll have a great day. We'll make it an amazing day on June 5th in Garfield County, Colorado in Glenwood Springs. So that's just an update there, and be praying for the people of Colorado. There's a lot going on that is just, again, it's challenging. It's a trauma-filled state. People are used to just getting, gaslit and retaliated against by their government. And crazy ideas like, transgenders having access to your children, being invited into your schools, being protected by the law, people who are committing essays against children having, getting zero consequences until they've done it for the third time. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, but it's happening every day. And it's also why, on a really good note, I want to end on a good note today. It's also why I'm very, very, very thankful to see the shrinking of the public school system in the state of Colorado everywhere. The school system is shrinking massively. They are not getting the money they need in order to fund all of their mandates that they've been doing, especially their GSA clubs and their art clubs and their, all the grooming stuff that they've implemented into the schools. It would be so amazing to see the education system have to strip back to just teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. Wouldn't that be something? I'm here for it. Strip it all back. Strip it all back. No more of this wokeism, no more of these the baccalaureate programs that are advocating and promoting the most indecent, inhumane people on the planet, and especially promoting communism. Yeah, yeah, these AP classes and courses promoting communism. They're not promoting the great American experience. It's communism. I've seen it. My kids went through it. I've seen it. I know exactly what they're doing. I'm under no delusions anymore. So there's so much that could be stripped back. But actually, Denver School District has closed a total, I believe, of 16 schools now. But in order to protect themselves from people knowing how bad the situation has gotten, they actually put a moratorium on closing any more Denver schools until 2030, although they had to reserve the right to close some schools if the test scores were super, super, super low, which they are. So there's 3 pending right now. Actually, there's going to be, or 4 pending right now in Denver. That was Chicago. And there's going to be a lot more that are closing. They're going to be left with no public school system in the state of Colorado because parents, thankfully, are not surrendering their children to these deviants anymore. Because between the hours of 7 and 4, when your child is on that campus, they belong to the state. And the state has made that very clear. And quite frankly, I think we see the judiciary has made that very clear. They're going to support that. And you can't afford that. You have one shot with your kid. And when they're messed up by deviants who are trying to take away their innocence and introduce them to this bizarre, confusing gender ideology, trans ideology, packing into them this paganist idea of being able to literally change your body to the opposite gender in place of God, you're going to have a very messed up kid if you allow them to go through with this. So parents have been warned, they're paying attention, and they're not going to tolerate it. Not to mention the mass exodus of businesses out of the state of Colorado and the mass exodus of families moving out of Colorado. So it's a good day. It's a very good thing. These people aren't going to get away with it. They're not going to be able to just keep taking our kids because we will not affirm a mental disorder. We want our children to be healthy and whole, not damaged and suicidal. That's what we're here for. We want to help them. So on that note, thank you guys so much for being with us. Remember, if you are a parent who is dealing with any of this transgender mafia issues at all, grooming of your children in school or out, if you suspect anybody is grooming your child in the public education system, please reach out. Call 1-833-42-PROTECT-KID. This is an initiative now picked up by Moms for America in partnership with America's Mom. And we are here to support you and find the help that you are going to need. You might just need to vent, but you might need legal action. And we can certainly help guide you through that process. So please reach out if you are a parent who's been told better a living daughter than a dead son. That kind of nonsense, that is manipulation to get you to be a part of their trans cult. And it's a lie. It's a lie. You know what I have seen? I've seen children who are allowed to stay in this. I've seen those kids become and be successful at unaliving themselves. That's what I've seen, not the interventions. So please reach out. Do not let them gaslight you. Do not let them manipulate you into turning your children over to their cult. Protect your kids. That is your number one duty, parents, to protect your children. Thank you so much for being with us today on America's Mom. And as always, remember, evil will prevail if good men and women do absolutely